Welcome to Element, a place where you can be known, valued, and loved. We're continuing talking through the book of Mark, and this week we're talking about how Jesus comes on the scene, gets baptized, has this incredible moment spiritually, and then the Spirit of God drives him out into the wilderness to starve for 40 days and to pray and to be tempted. It's like this weird kind of juxtaposition of having this blessing from God and then moving into a really hard time. And it's kind of like life, honestly, and you'll see that here, I hope, today. Because it reminds me a lot of freshman year of high school when I tried out for the basketball team. Now, Christina kind of talked about this last week, and I had a similar story where I thought, okay, the best way to get popular is probably make a sports team. Didn't have a ton of raw talent to work with. I played basketball from 6th to 8th grade at St. Laborie, but really to make the team back when I went to St. Laborie was like, do you want to play? Because we don't have enough people to play if you don't. And then it's like, okay, I made the team. And I was pretty good at free throws. I'd hit like 3 out of 10. And me and my buddy Derek, we'd shoot hoops all day after school, no problem. We'd be on his little dirt farm road and have his Spalding basketball hoop that was kind of leaning to the left. And probably wasn't regulation height, because we had to work on our 360 windmill dunks back in 6th grade. But I was pretty good at hitting that shot that was like right beside the grass over there by the burn barrel. And I could make that quite often. So I figured, hey, I was pretty good at shooting hoops, 6th to 8th grade. I'll probably make the team freshman year. It's going to be easy. I'm going to hit those shots in a game. Everybody's going to love me. It's going to be great. So the day comes, try out for the team, make it. It must have been like, there was 25 people that tried out and they needed, 25 exactly. So I kind of like snuck in there, I think. They must have, found out that I could make 3 out of 10 free throws. So they needed a clutch player in case of emergency. So I made the team. And I thought, okay, I made it. Like, this is going to be great. I had this glory moment. I am on a team in high school sports. I've arrived. And so now it's time to shine. Now it's time to shoot the hoops. Now it's time to show what I'm made of. Move aside, everybody. But guess what we did? For the first 18,000 practices, we ran. We didn't even get to shoot the ball. Nobody cared that I could shoot a ball. We ran. We ran laps. We ran up downs. We ran drills. We ran around cones. We ran on ladders. All we did was run. And then we didn't even get to shoot the ball after that. It was learning how to dribble around a cone. Go ahead, grab the ball and dribble around the cone. Now dribble with your other hand. Well, I'm not good at dribbling with my other hand. When am I going to be able to shoot and show you that I can hit that shot by the burn barrel? And then after that, what we did was we ran scrimmages and then we ran plays and learned how to get around people. So it turns out, here's the deal. It turns out in the game of basketball, not every shot's an open shot. Not every shot is just shooting hoops after school at your buddy's house. You actually have to learn how to navigate people trying to defend against you. You have to learn how to shoot when someone's trying to swat you. You have to learn how to work with your team when the play is breaking down. It's a lot like life. And I see this a lot in Jesus' story where, he made the team, and now it's time for conditioning. Now it's time to go through the process of learning how to make decisions in life when things are swatting at you, when there's things that don't want you to get to where you're going and where God is having you go, where life starts to break down a little bit and you've got to learn how to navigate those moments. Tough times actually bring blessing in our lives if we understand what they're there for. And we're going to read Mark here in just a second to see what's actually happening here. But I have this thought of these things that we practice a lot in our life. Why do we have to practice? Well, it's so that we know how to do those things in real world scenarios, right? And that's the whole reason why Jesus is moving from this moment of blessing into this moment of even deeper blessing by going through a time of temptation and hardship. So the thing that trips us up is sometimes in life, we feel like everything's just going to be an open shot. Like we feel like if we're living all right, if we're doing the right things, if we're going to church, we're going to Element, all that kind of stuff, that nothing's really going to get in our way. But that's not true. There's going to be things that swat at us. There's going to be things that knock us off course. Like if following God's will is the goal that we're trying to get to, there's going to be things in our way. And Jesus is showing us that there's a way through that. That's the whole point of this. And so I want to show you in Mark chapter 1, verse 9 through 13, this kind of weird series of coming on the scene, like a blessing, and then all of a sudden a time of hardship and trial that really kind of sets up Jesus's next few years and the strength that he finds to go through that. And he's showing us that we also kind of need a training camp type season in our life to learn how to navigate the defense, the people swatting at us, the temptations in our life that keep us from getting to the goal that God has for us. So this is Mark chapter 1, verse 9 through 13. It came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. And immediately coming up from the water, he saw the heavens parting and the Spirit descending upon him like a dove. And then a voice came from heaven, "You're my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And then immediately, this is where it takes a strange turn, immediately the Spirit drove him into the wilderness. And he was there in the wilderness for 40 days, tempted by Satan, and was with the wild beasts, and the angels ministered to him. So here he is in this moment of making the team, and then now it's time for training camp. There's no shots being taken. There's no big moments. It's like, okay, we got to go through this dribbling exercise. We got to go through running these plays so that way we know how to navigate life on the other side of this. Life isn't just full of open shots. We got to learn how to navigate these temptations. And while Jesus was out there in the wilderness, Satan tempted him in 3 big ways. Basically tempted him for power, for pleasure, and for fame, for popularity. And for us, I mean, a lot of our temptations kind of fall in the same 3 categories. You know, we want power, we want popularity, or we just want what feels good now in the moment. And the way that Jesus navigated this was the truth of God. Like, he knew the truth, and so he was able to combat these lies, these temptations, and stay on task and stay on the course towards the goal that God had for him. And so when we think of the temptations in our life, you could think of hundreds of things that want to throw us off course for what God has in life. They probably have to do with pleasure and getting what we want now and feeling good now, power, making sure that we don't feel small, but that we feel in control, or to be popular, to just gain status and make people, impressed with us. How do we navigate those temptations? Well, we see them as temptations, first of all, and then we remember what we learned when we go through hard times. We have to lean on God, and we have to turn to the truth that we've heard from our loved ones, that we've heard from reading the Bible, that we've heard from being here at Element even. And I think about my own life, like I went through a season where, I gave my life to Jesus. I'm moving in a new direction. There's this feeling of blessing and acceptance. I'm on Team Jesus. And then I go through these hard times, these seasons where it feels like all I did was apologize. All I did was try to make wrong things right. All I did was run into more problems. But it was God teaching me how to navigate life, because life isn't just a bunch of open shots. It's not just a bunch of feel-good moments. And this was a verse that really helped me. This is 1 Corinthians 10:13. And I want to read this to you in the Message translation. It's a paraphrase, but it says it so commonplace that it helps me understand it, so I'm sure it'll help you understand it too. It says this: "No test or temptation that comes your way is beyond the course of what other people have faced." And this gave me comfort when I was going through my stuff, because it was like, okay, so it's not unique to me. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one dealing with these lies or these thoughts that are getting me off course. And then it goes on to say, all you need to remember is that God will never let you down. That's the most important thing that you can hang on to in these moments. God will never let you down. He'll never let you be pushed past your limit. He'll always be there to help you come through it. Another translation says, he'll give you a way out. Whenever we're navigating life and we're, let's use this basketball thing, let's just drive this into the ground. When you're coming down the court and you're seeing the defense, you're seeing that there's going to be troubles. You're seeing that it's not going to just be open shots. You're trying to find a way through that. The same thing with temptation. as you're headed towards the goal of where God wants you to be, the person who he's calling you to be, he's going to show you a way through that. And it's through these temptations. Okay, so here's the big idea and the main point for all of this. It's that your life will have seasons where you are in the wilderness. Your life will have moments where it's tough and there's trials and it feels like life is swatting at you and not wanting you to get to where God is calling you to be. Maybe you're in one of those right now. Honestly, I feel like I've been through a few of those in the last few years where it just feels tough. But if we look at the life of Jesus, and maybe if we even look back at our own lives, God never wastes that. In fact, it's used to teach us how to move through hard times so that not only we can navigate those in the future, but we can also help other people who are going through hard times too. When Jesus was in the wilderness, he was in a desert. He was in a place where only wild beasts were. But God still ministered to his heart. And that's a deep metaphor for us too. Maybe you feel like you're in a desert. Maybe you feel like there's nothing else nourishing you right now. And the only place that you have left to turn is to God. You know, a lot of people will talk about this scripture and this portion of Jesus's life and say when Jesus was at his weakest, that's when evil tried to get to him. But I think also, maybe that's true. But if you think about where Jesus was, he had no distractions, nobody asking him for anything. Yeah, he was hungry, but there's something spiritual about fasting that focuses your mind on God. He might have been at a point of incredible strength too. Like, yeah, maybe he was physically weak, but in terms of spiritual strength, what was he doing while he was out there in the wilderness? Yeah, he was fasting, but he wasn't playing video games. Like, he was praying. He was dwelling on the truth of God. He was relying on God for every single moment of every day to meet his needs and to sustain him. When you're that close with God, navigating temptation feels way easier. It feels way more able to move through. Because why? Because God's going to show you the way through. And if you're not in a point in your life where you're listening to God or you're working with God and who he wants you to be or relying on him to sustain you in any of that, how are you going to hear his voice when he shows you the way through the defense? How are you going to see his plan when he has specifically prepared a place for you to take the shot and to make a difference in your life? Here's Jesus, no distractions, completely accomplishing his goal in the wilderness, which was to take on temptations just like you and I take on and navigate them with the truth of God in a close relationship with God, going, no, I know God has something greater for me than momentary pleasure or cheap power that seems like I'm more powerful than God, but I'm not. Or cheap popularity where people are impressed in one moment and forget you the next. So think about your life. What kind of wilderness moment are you in or have you been in? And what has that been like? Did you navigate it with God or did you try to navigate it by yourself? How did it go? And I'm sure your coaches, as they're listening to this, they're thinking about the wilderness moments in their life. I think about the wilderness moments in mine. And they truly are a moment where you learn how to navigate real life. Not where life is just a bunch of open shots, but that there's tough stuff to decide. There's tough stuff to navigate. Jesus wants to lead us through the wilderness. He wants to go first and show us that there's hope on the other side of times that seem completely barren and like a wasteland. And then he shows up on the scene in your life to show you what's true, to show you how you can rely on God, and to maybe give you hope that just on the other side of these temptations, just on the other side of this wilderness, God has something incredible for you. After Jesus left the wilderness, his life turned into a kingdom machine with healings and love and friendships. And yeah, there were hard times, but it was the greatest adventure ever. What if on the other side of your wilderness, on the other side of your barren desert, in this training camp that you're in right now with God, is a season of love and friendship and adventure and journey and purpose and mission and value, where you're going to be used by God in ways that you couldn't have been before this season? I know that's been true in my life. Maybe that's going to be true in yours too.